Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, real quick here, and that is in Georgia. Georgia voters who plan to take advantage of absentee voting process should give the Georgia Secretary of State office plenty of time to process applications, according to Glenn County Elections and Registration Supervisor Chris Chanel. During a normal election, they would process absentee ballot applications, print the ballots, mail them to voters, and count them on Election Day. It will be possible that someone could apply for a ballot at the deadline and still get their vote counted, but that's not likely with the state office handling all things, and the volume could be a problem. The deadline to submit an absentee ballot application is 5 p.m. on June 5th. Folks, if you're in Georgia, we want you to get this thing done a lot early, okay? All right, folks. The Manhood Movement is a global initiative committed to awakening the consciousness of men, delivering key principles for impactful leadership and teaching them how to achieve their highest potential. Well, that's what actor Dondre Whitfield talks about in his new book, Male versus Man. It has been out for a couple of weeks. You can get it everywhere possible. Dondre joins us right now. What's up, Dondre?
Brother man, how you doing?
All good, all good. Glad to have you here. So let's talk about this book. You have been doing the Manhood Movement for several years. I remember when you came here to D.C. We had you on the show. Why? Why? What started this?
You know, it's a great question. My father struggled for much of his life, much of my adolescence. And so subsequently, I didn't get the messaging of manhood that I felt like I should have received from him. And like many of our brothers who grow up, you know, fatherless, whether the father's inside your home or outside of your home, I really struggled to understand why I didn't get that from him. And it wasn't until really 4 years ago when I reconciled with my father that I realized that my father couldn't father me because he himself was unfathered. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to write a playbook, if you will, for manhood. I wanted to write a book that if my father had had this kind of messaging, what kind of man would he have become? What kind of man would I have ultimately become sooner had I had access to this information? And finally, what kind of information would my son need in order for him to better matriculate into manhood himself?
It's interesting you talk about that. The writer, historian Nelson George recently wrote a piece talking about his dad and not being present. His dad recently died a week ago from coronavirus. And Nelson talked about only seeing him 3 times in his life. And then he said, and it was very interesting, he said something that I've rarely seen Brother write. He said, I'm glad he was not involved in our lives because then we would not have been able to do what my mom did with us because he would have been coming in and out. And when the conversation, one of the last conversations, he said it finally hit him what the whole deal was, just what you just described. His dad never saw what a father was supposed to be like, and so he just ran the streets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what to that point, whenever I speak to young brothers, I often ask them, name me your favorite athlete. And, you know, for many of our young brothers that, you know, they really love basketball. And so the usual suspects comes up. MJ, Kobe, LeBron. I said, okay, name me what they had in common. And so they come up with a bunch of things. They were tough. They had talent. They had jump shots. They jump well. They all of these things. And I said, you guys are missing one specific thing, and that is they had coaching. From the time that they picked up a basketball, AAU, high school, college, the pros. And watch this, Roland. The higher you get, the more you level up. You don't get less coaching. You actually get more coaching. So when you become this superstar who's in the pros. You might have a shooting coach. You might have a strength and conditioning coach. You might have a mental coach. You might have a defensive coach. You've got all of these coaches. Meanwhile, you're one of the greatest players in the world. And again, to that point, you don't get less coaching, you get more coaching. Well, if it takes that kind of coaching to turn you into a great basketball player, why do we think we don't need that kind of coaching to turn us into great men? Manhood does not come with an age. You don't hit a magical age and turn into a great man. Just because you turn 18 or 21 or 25, you and I know what I describe in Male versus Man as grown males who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I can introduce you to some that are in their 60s. Why? Because manhood does not come with age. It comes with skill sets and then the application of those skill sets.
Bringing our panel here. If they're still there, let me know they're still there. I'm going to go to them after this next question, and that is, it's also interesting to me, and I say this all the time, there's a difference between somebody who is a man, a father, and a dad. There's a difference. And to be a father or a dad is not defined by biology. Meaning, is that a question of, well, I'm the biological. You might be the biological daddy, but it don't mean you a father. As somebody who's helped raise 6 nieces.
Yes, indeed. I've been a surrogate father to more than I can keep track of at times, because I understand what it was like to not be fathered. And there are times where I have been a surrogate father to kids that I didn't even know that I was serving in that capacity until later on when they come to me, or later on when their mom comes to me and says, you know, to be honest with you, he's always seen you like his father. And that is how important this role is. There's a reason why God made it necessary for a man and a woman to create a child. And that is because in order to create a balanced human being, that human being needs the messaging of both man and woman. And I don't care who you are. If you are missing the messaging of one of those, you are falling behind in a very crucial and vital areas of your life. If you look at any woman on the face of this earth, look, my daughter is 15 years old, Roland. I can't teach her how to be a woman. And the reason why is because I am not one. But my job in relationship to her growth is to teach her how to be in relationship with a man. I'm the first love of her life. So every day I am the dress rehearsal for what she will ultimately play out in her relationships. Now, it's pretty obvious that my 11-year-old son sees me as the model that he will one day mirror. So every single day when he watches me engage, whether it's with him, my daughter, my wife, my community at large, he says to himself, oh, that's what manhood looks like, walks like, and talks like.
Erica.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us, Pastor, and I appreciate your work. So the title of your book, you talk about how to honor women and how to teach children. What is one of the biggest strongholds that you are seeing when you are mentoring, you are coaching, be it a young man or someone who is a little bit more advanced in years?
You know, I think pride is the thing that usually gets in the way. That's the ego part of. In my book, I talk about how every man that you meet is a male, but not every male that you meet is a man. Males look to be served while men look to be of service. So a male who allows his pride or his ego to get in the way truly shows you his male-like colors, because ego is the one thing that keeps us at the center of constantly serving ourselves. Every single day of my life is about serving people who oftentimes I'm serving people who I don't even know. My children will tell you that sometimes we're walking in the street, and based on what I see from someone, I might say to themselves, you know what? This person needs a conversation. And that conversation might turn into a 35-minute conversation. Not because I'm holding them hostage, but simply because I'm asking key questions. And they finally had an opportunity to have a conversation with someone about an area that they may be lacking in. And I will be honest with you, when we serve in that capacity, when we have a conversation that's full of empathy, where people have an opportunity to engage in a way that they've never had an opportunity to engage, like when you're missing your father and you don't have safe conversations with your father. My son is 11 years old. Every single day I have a conversation with my son, I cry for the 11-year-old me, because I never had safe conversations with a man in that capacity, where I was able to be my less than best self, where I was able to make mistakes, but I was able to get messaging that allowed me to come to my better self. So when I engage these brothers who are 20 and 30 and 40 years old, their ego is telling them, I don't need manhood messaging because I am a man. And that's because they're subscribing to the theories of society, which means if I've got great pecs, that makes me a man. If I make over $100,000, that makes me a man. If I've bedded 10 women in this last week, that makes me a man. If I've been the biological father of 5 or 6 children, that makes me a man, when actually that speaks to your masculinity. That may speak to your sexuality, but it certainly doesn't speak to your manhood.
Greg.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Brother Dondre.
Thank you, Greg.
You know, oh no, brother. I mean, often we have these conversations that I always tell my students. In some ways, I think civilization is a conversation between women, and men are always trying to have a conversation with their father. So this is very familiar.
Yes.
But,
yes.
You know, the way you open your book, brother, with the loss of your brother Amon, is I don't think there are any mistakes. You know, in ancient Egyptian language, in the hieroglyphs, Medu Neter, Amun literally means the unseen one, the hidden one. It is the force out of which everything emerges. And so reading that made me think, and of course you go on to talk about the role of spirituality, made me really think that this book really for you is really a spiritual journey as well. How important is spirituality in developing our ability to be human and not just the product of our biology, brother?
Absolutely, Greg. It's so essential, because as males first, and I often tell folks that male is the gender that we were chosen to be, but man is the job that we choose to do. As males first, we rely on our physicality, right? So oftentimes we will respond physically before we respond in any other way. If we rely on our physicality and only our physicality, we will get ourselves as well as those around us in trouble. Spirituality is a crucially important component of our walk as men, because without it, now watch this, if I didn't have my spirituality, and for me in general, and I'm not saying that this is right for anyone, I'm not selling anyone religion in this book, I'm not even selling them God, but for me, I am a godly man. So God comes first. If I came first, meaning if I was ahead of God, then I would be looking to serve myself all day, every day. But because God is higher than myself, then I know that I serve a God, and that God has me here on assignment. When God created me, God didn't simply create me to be on the Cosby Show or to be Remy on Queen Sugar. I tell folks often that acting is my passion, but activation is my purpose. Meaning, when God created me, what was his intention behind my creation? So as an actor, I have a platform, but I use that platform in order to suit my purpose. And my purpose is to be a man that serves the women and children in my life. Without my spirituality, I would never have come to this space in my life.
Appreciate you, brother.
Let's go to Reese.
Hi, Dondre. So I noticed earlier you mentioned that, you know, in order to raise a child, a balanced person, you need a man and a woman. How could, let's say, a same-sex partnership where there isn't a man in the relationship, but they're great parents, how could how could they use your book, or, you know, single mothers out there, or just maybe people who want to understand their partner better? How is your book inclusive, or how can that be used for that demographic or those demographics?
Reese, thank you, sister. Such a great question. You know, often I talk about, one of the things that I address in this book is the fact that our brothers who happen to be gay still are men if they are dedicated to service. So again, let me just tee this up. My wife and I have been partnered for 23 years. What we do in our bedroom is our business. I don't share anything that I do sexually with my wife. My sexuality, in terms of what I do with my wife, has nothing to do with my manhood. I don't share any of that. And yet, no one ever references that as a part of my manhood. So in the end, why are we trying to address that as it pertains to the gay men in our community? It has absolutely nothing to do with your manhood. It may have much to do with your sexuality. It may even have much to do with your masculinity. I know some brothers who happen to be effeminate, but in terms of their manhood, in terms of their dedication to service, they are great men. Right? I have absolutely nothing to do or any say in what anyone does with their sexuality or their masculinity. But I do have a say in how I feel like you are engaging your community as a man, how you are walking out your manhood in dedication to service. So for me, even those who are same-sex partners, one of the things I talk about in the book is I speak to single moms often, and they say, well, I don't know any men. I usually find that hard to believe because we all know coaches, we all know pastors, we all know Roland Martins and Dondre Whitfields and Gregs in the world that we can go to say, hey, listen, Uncle Greg, Uncle Roland, Uncle Dondre, I am dropping my son off to you from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I'll be picking him up. And on Saturday, I'm going to need the same thing from you, because what I need is a partner in raising a king. I can't teach my son how to be something I am not. My mother taught me how to be a great human being. She taught me how to be responsible. She taught me how to be compassionate. She taught me how to be conscious. What she couldn't do was she couldn't teach me how to be something she was not. She couldn't teach me how to be a woman. My mother taught me how to cook. It didn't make me a chef. If I wanted to become a chef, I had to get under the tutelage of a chef. When a young brother wants to come into manhood, he has to get under the tutelage of a man in order for him to truly understand what his assignment is on this earth and how to better walk it out. So with our same-sex partners who are looking for manhood messaging and they don't have any in their purview, this book is going to give them the playbook that they are going to need in order to better raise a son.
So I came across this this post today. I saw it on Twitter. It's gotten a lot of different comments on Instagram, and it's quite interesting. And I think it's also timely for our conversation today, Dondre. And so I'm going to show this. So this is the photo. This is the photo. This brother, CJ_ISKING. He's throwing the alpha sign up there. But I got an issue with his post, Greg, and trust me, as a fellow alpha, trust me, he would get pulled aside by one of us. So, Dondre, this is what he wrote. This is what he wrote on his Instagram page. Now that I'm JD'd, bar number loading, meaning he just got his law degree, I've entered into a new arena of black men. And in this arena, I'm the prize now. Don't just take my word for it, though, and before you kill me in the comments, let me drop some stats for your ass right quick so you can see my point. Black women outnumber black men by 2 million. He goes on to talk about what black women don't want to deal with. He says black women don't want to deal with a black man who's gay, down low, has baby mama issues, or has a felony conviction, record in jail, which collectively is a large percentage of our race. Unfortunately, as statistically, 37% of black men are in jail, while 1/3 of black men have some form of criminal record. Black women typically don't want to date down and prefer to have a black man that is on the same playing field as her or higher. Well, statistically, only 7% of black men are professionals. With this massive criteria that black women don't want in when dating a black man, they have essentially drastically limited the dating pool of viable black men. The majority of black women are currently after, which means everyone doesn't get picked. And statistically, 70% of black women go unmarried. You see where I'm going here. I wish you used some punctuation, though. Additionally, black women want their mate to be attractive, have some form of edge, style, to be exciting and not be lame, etc. I know all that is subjective, but everyone doesn't have these so-called X factors, which lowers the number of viable black men even lower. So with me now gaining access into this very small percentage of black men that are young, for the record, I'm under 30 with 2 degrees, single and attractive, are heterosexual, have no criminal record, no baby mama drama, and have some form of high-paying career potential, the majority of black women are competing against each other for, you tell me who's the real prize. What would you say to him?
Wow. You know, in my book, I talk about the difference between the 2 versions of myself, Brooklyn Dre and Disciple Dondre. Brooklyn Dre is dying to have a conversation with him. but Disciple Dondre would say to him, and to your earlier point, Roland, about how brothers like yourself would pull him aside. One of the things that's missing in our grown males is the lack of consistent manhood accountability. My wife, she is, you know, my wife ain't no punk. She's from the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
She's very opinionated.
Y'all need to understand, Dondre's wife is Sally Richardson Whitfield. Why is Sally gonna text me, look, you gotta send this out. I need my husband's book to be #1. I was like, Sally, really? That's how you coming at me?
Like, that's how you doing it?
I was like, really?
That is who she is. People who don't know her don't understand that's who she is, and that's what I contend with. Okay? So I gotta be on my game to be able to contend with that. But my wife, who is doing a phenomenal job of raising our daughter, is often simply loving our son. Without me in this house, in order to be the drill instructor of manhood for my son would absolutely be in trouble. Without men in the lives of our young males, in order to hold them lovingly accountable, they go this way. There is something that is missing from that brother who posted that. Obviously, first of all, you already know he's in a great deal of trouble that he would even post something like that, #1. #2, no sister worth her salt would go near him because she already knows he's swimming in his ego. You don't want to go nowhere near that. To that brother, I would have to sit him down and to say, my brother, you have to understand what your assignment is on this earth. And right now, it sounds like your assignment is to serve you instead of the women and children in your community.
Folks, the book, pull up the cover, please, by Dondre Whitfield. The book is, go ahead, y'all got the cover? Go ahead and pull it up. Oh, fine. All right, folks, it is Male vs. Man, Male vs. Man. And, of course, it's available everywhere. Dondre Whitfield, man, I appreciate it. Great conversation.
My brother, as always, I love speaking to you. I can't wait for us for me to come back and to talk about the state of television and what men and males are like in that medium. That's a conversation.
Oh, that's indeed a conversation.
Yes,
also,
sir.
folks, y'all got to get a little bit more. Over the summer, we were in the Bahamas with Bishop Neil Ellis, where Dondre and Devon Franklin did a session together talking about manhood. We're going to actually restream that after this show ends. Dondre, what's up? I appreciate it. Tell your wife, see, I got him on the show.
Always.
Tell us, stop being gangster.
We love you, bro.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Sir.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dondre. I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications.